So the question is about unwinding gamma, the delta range for today, or what is perceived as the drunken sailor range, I should say, is pretty large. In fact, let me just call that chart up and we'll just talk to that chart because I think it probably exemplifies things a little better. And I know we open in 5 minutes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this. So we painted the drunken sailor range here from 58.50 due to this large strike and this effectively this gradient right here, and then we got this gradient up here, and so you can see large range for things. But also within inside of drunken sailor, we've got some ledges or shifts where we go from like a delta node, gamma node, which I wrote about. It's in the notes here, so go read them. And then we have some, large change right there. So that's a big step. And then we have a big series of steps right in this area. And so when we talk about gamma unwinding, remember, gamma is maximal at, or very close. It's not exactly the peak, but it's close enough. Is maximal at spot price. So as you go up through these strikes, so let's just do a pretend thing here. So ignoring that we're going to gap up this morning and all that noise, let's just pretend we're going to not gap up and let's just walk up here. So what happens when you come up through a put-dominated strike here, and 5900 is a put-dominated strike. If you were to walk up through that, you're unwinding gamma because you're going through a put strike. And so basically what was in the money is now out of the money.
And that out of the money is decaying, creating positive delta.
That's exactly right.
And it's pushing us upwards. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the charm will be constructive to be underneath us as soon as puts start going out. But what happens is that gamma is the change in delta due to spot price movement, right? So as price moves up through, not only do you get, delta is the change in the option price as a function of change in spot price. Gamma is an amplifier on that. And when you have a put-dominated strike, like here at 5900, you basically are, when you came down through this, you added negative deltas. And so when you come up through it from the bottom, you're actually unwinding those negative deltas, which is the same thing as you are adding at a disproportionate rate the positive deltas.
Okay.
So when you come up through, let's just start down here where I'm showing the cursor. If you were to come up through all these put-dominated strikes, and we know they're put-dominated because of what's over here, and this is just reflecting what gamma is from this spot price. But if you were to come up through all these put, you're effectively removing negative deltas. Now, the gamma function, and I can write about this in the technical questions answer if you post something up there. The gamma function is like a balloon. As we go through a 0 DTE, well, as we go through time, but 0 TTE, you can really see it. It's like you are squeezing the balloon from the sides. What happens when you squeeze a balloon from the sides? It gets taller, right? The amplitude goes up. And so if, and this is a big if we go up here during the day, right? So we gap up in the morning. So we've unwound the net of what all this is. And now we're up here after the open, which is in 2 minutes. As we come back down through, these are going to be put-dominated strikes all day. Now, yes, there's intraday action and all that stuff, and I'm not going to get wrapped around the axle, and you shouldn't either, anybody who's listening. But as we come down through these strikes, the gamma is going to grow. For anyone who's been watching this and using the web app tool, you'll see that this distribution, this is the gamma distribution, so zeros up here, zeros down here. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter during the day. The zeros creep up this way, the zeros creep down this way, and that's because the gamma function, the balloon, is getting squeezed from the sides, and it's going to get taller in the middle, just like a balloon. So if the morning we gap up here, and this is the gamma, we'll just mentally add these numbers together. I'm not going to ask you to do it. You don't need to do it, but you can basically say, if we fall back down through this later in the afternoon, these numbers are going to be much, much larger. Much larger. And that means you are now adding negative deltas and unwinding the call deltas. So you're basically a double whammy with bigger numbers. You're removing the call deltas, which is the same as adding put deltas, which are negative, and now you're starting to add bigger negative deltas because these are already put dominated. So what happens is that the afternoon session in a 0DTE has greater gamma influence than the morning session. This is a big deal. This is important because your reactions later in the day can be much more substantial than what happened earlier in the day. And so the fact that we're gapping up, woohoo, pull out your little kazoos and party hats and, you know, have a great day. There's nothing to suggest we're going to remain up there. And especially with what Mike was showing earlier, you know, the overall charts here, this structure above us, this is the AM structure from the pre-market. This AM structure is really broken in the overhead, right? There's just tons of places for the AMs to rest. And when you combine it with the overall PMs, this is everything turned on, AMs and PMs, you can see the transition is fat. There's a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as we go up the chain. This is not a great looking structure. And oh, by the way, look at all of the red below price. This is in the money or out of the money put speculation to the downside in the entire complex, right? So why do I bring that up? Yeah, we could gap up here. We could very easily unwind. And if we unwind below minus transition, Katie, bar the doors. We're probably going to start testing some of these lower ranges. And there's some great opportunities. I wrote about them this morning in the if-then. There's some great opportunities below the 58.85 zone to really participate and print some money this afternoon or anytime, but just give a watch. So takeaway, you unwind gammas in either way faster in the afternoon session than you do the morning, and that's because of the metaphor of squeezing a balloon that has, you know, effectively a defined width, right? Put a balloon on the table in front of you. Put your hands on either side of the balloon. Your hands are time. The distance between your hands is the time to expiry. As your hands get closer and closer and closer, the balloon gets taller and taller and taller. That's the amplification effect of gamma into a 0DTE into the afternoon session. And you're just amplifying what you have under control in the structure. So knowing where your levels are is a big deal when you have something like that going on. So we'll see what happens. Is that clear?
Oh, that helps out a lot. Thanks, man.
You got it.